Hi everyone, it's Sarah from the Support Worker Store. Today I've got Garth. It is the brat and the cat. We're finally here. We finally made it to a podcast. Hooray. So, do you want to get
Nice to
straight
meet you.
into it? Nice to meet you too.
Yeah, let's do it.
We did it. Like, are you Melbourne based?
No, I'm up in Newcastle in New South Wales.
And you're just absolutely everywhere? Absolutely everywhere. Every time I talk to you, you seem to be on a flight somewhere and you're going there. So I feel you're very Australian wide.
I think in the time, yeah, we are. I think in the time I've been talking, I've had a few conferences on and a few trips to Sydney and there and stuff like that. But yeah, I try to limit the travel where I can because I've got a young family here. So, we got a head office in Newcastle, but all our staff are spread out all over Australia.
Yeah, tell me about a little bit more about your life. So you said you got a small family. Tell me more.
Well, yeah. So I got two kids, 14 and 11. So my son's in year 8 at high school. My daughter's in year 6. And they're polar opposites. Both lovely kids, but they're polar opposites. My daughter's, ready, posed to take over the world. She's school captain and wins public speaking competitions and all this stuff. And my son's a real sweetheart. He's right into his martial arts, so he loves his karate and everything like that. And he, very, very sweet kid, very minded. And actually, when I set up company, I called it Hunter Madison Holdings originally before I even come up with the name. So that was sort of my little dedication to them. So that, when you have those days where you're not sure why you're bothering with all this, you just remember why you're doing it. But they're wonderful.
So how did you get yourself into payroll?
I was an accountant by trade. So when I left uni, I went through some of the big four accounting firms and mid-tier firms in Newcastle. And I went to, I think it was like, I'm going to give you a long story here, but
Go
in
for
around
it.
2010, 2011, it was sort of when, yeah, so it was when a lot of the cloud apps sort of came along. Like Xero was one of them, but there was a product called Sasu and all that sort of stuff. And prior to that, I was doing a lot of external audit. So we'd audit big companies' payroll systems and give them obviously we're trying to find fraud and error and all that sort of stuff, but we also would give them advice through a management letter on how they could improve their system. And for me, that was the best part of, or the most interesting part of doing the audit as a young fella, is just trying to learn and understand how these big companies operate, and what systems they had in place. Even primitive back then, like it was all pen and paper. I'm showing my age, but some system access stuff, but it was all desktop. And often the advice would be, look, you've got a good system, but you should really try to make sure that you're not trying to duplicate data from here to here. Try to see if you can integrate it and bring it all into one spot. When cloud accounting came out, it wasn't sort of desktop. It sort of untethered the systems at the time a little bit. And I was starting to get more and more curious about APIs and things like that. That was sort of piqued my interest. Even though I wasn't in tech, I'm like, oh, wow, there's a way to sort of glue these systems together, which appealed to me a lot. And as time went on, I took the plunge and sort of around when my son was born, I took the plunge and opened up a little accounting practice and no clients. It was a crazy thing to do, but I used to just pound the pavement and go up and down the streets and try to find clients. And my idea at the time was I'd set up these cloud apps and run accounting for them or bookkeeping for them as a function within their business, right? Sort of like what we call a virtual CFO now. It's just not, that wasn't around or was around back then. And I had trouble, like it wasn't really demand for that at the time. Like people just still saw accounting as get my tax return done at the end of the year and that's it, right? So as I got into it, more and more people came up to me and said, oh, great, so you could do payroll. Okay, yeah, sure, no problem. And then Google what payroll means. Hours times hourly rate, right? Sarah, how hard could it be? Couldn't be that difficult, surely. And you get into it and then you open up. You open up Wards for the first time and your eyes glaze over and you go, what have I got myself into? And, back then, people were still faxing timesheets to us and faxing leave requests to us and things like that. So I took it on mainly out of survival, really. But as soon as I took it on, I thought, oh, I wonder if I can use these APIs to find a good payroll system that has APIs, right? And see if we can, for example, build an online form where you could maybe fill out a leave request in the online form and instead of faxing it, it just goes straight in. And same thing with the timesheet, same thing with the new employee, So that was some of the early projects I took on. And I come across, it's called Employment Hero Payroll now. It's called KeyPay back then. And came across that pretty early. They just gone to market and I was fascinated by it because when they first came out, the first thing they put in place was employee self-service, which meant that the employee could log in and do all these things themselves. Cut out that straight away, cut out those fax timesheets and leave requests and all those sorts of things we had to fill in ourselves. Just took that out of it. And that was great. And I just sort of got very nerdy about learning the back end of the system, like how APIs worked and all that sort of stuff. Fast forward a little bit, their product got better and better. It's pretty primitive when it first came out, but it got better and better. And they come out with a feature called rules, which very simply is where you can put, if this happens, then do that. If somebody chooses this on their timesheet, pay them an allowance. If somebody works past this time, make it an overtime pay category, that sort of thing. And they said to me, look, Garth, we've got a client. We want you to, we've only just released it. It was like 48 hours ago, we released this feature. This client's been waiting for it. Go down and build it. And this client happened to be running an EBA for a construction business, like an enterprise agreement. I said, okay, I'll take it on. And I'm literally reading the tutorial on the plane on the way down to Melbourne, arrive pretending I know what I'm talking about. And I remember going to their office, and it was a construction type business. So they were backed by a really powerful union. So I went and I built all this stuff, and they switched it on and started using it. And I think I did something wrong in the first one I'd built, and they were missing out on RDO, or they're missing out on something. There was something missing from 300 paces went out with something missing. They all walk off site. And they sit in the shed and they say, we're going to sit in the shed with pay until this is fixed. So the client's screaming at me like, how could you possibly do this? So that was sort of my first experience. And we kept up with the changes in the system and got better at implementing it. And in the end, sold that practice and ended up working for KeyPay internally. And my job when I was there was to, I built all the award templates. A lot of the ones that still used today were sort of built in that era. So like if you went and downloaded Employment Hero Payroll now and downloaded, say, manufacturing or something in there, I built that at home in 2014. So that was my job. I eventually left there and opened PayCat, I think in 2018. And at the time, single touch payroll had just come in. I don't know if you remember that, but like all of a sudden we have to report pay events to the government. Yeah. And a lot of old systems that were around that were just sort of dinosaur systems, they were sort of shutting down because they're like, you know what, we can't be bothered making the investment we don't want to spend $1 million trying to integrate with the ATO. So we're just going to park this. And they wanted all their clients to move across to KeyPay. So I'm one of the few people out there that knew how to set up KeyPay for people. And I just put on LinkedIn and started getting a lot of work. So PayCat actually started as sort of me just doing freelance work from my garage in 2018. We'll talk about it more, but as more clients come in and more opportunities come in, I would say, all right, well, I can't do all this myself. So I'm going to bring somebody in. I'm going to take one of the hats off that I'm wearing and give it to that person, and take one of the hats off and give it to that person. PayCat now has 32 staff, and I, most days, are reasonably bored. I don't have too much to do anymore because I've allocated out all these hats over the years. But yeah, it's been a really interesting ride to go from that freelance model into what it is now.
I've got to ask this because I do interview a lot of founders on this podcast. It sounds like you were actually quite curious. What sparked your curiosity when it began? Because it seemed like you upskilled yourself to learn new skills to be able to introduce it into an app form.
Yeah. So obviously I didn't build it, just to clarify, I didn't build the app myself. It was much more clever build than me that built it, but I was very fascinated by it. And I'm the kind of person who likes to sort of look under the hood and see how things work. Break stuff. And, I probably, if I did my time over, I probably would have gone into engineering more than accounting, in hindsight. But I got into accounting because I was just fascinated by businesses. So it was the same curiosity there that led me into that profession. And, even in my early employees, that actually, because there's no real unfortunately, there's no real dedicated profession in our country for payroll. You can sort of do it through bookkeeping and accounting, and there's certifications and stuff. And there's movements of people trying to turn it into a profession, which I'm all for, a complete backing on, because payroll people are invaluable in our country. But you can't really find people from a degree, so you've got to go, well, what's the right fit, right? And when I was trying to find people that could do an implementation, for my first staff were actually guys that had done engineering at university and stuff like that. So they've done like mechatronics. One of my first employees was a mechatronics engineer, Chris Davies. He still works for us now. And he brought along people that he knew through high school, like a high learning high school locally. A lot of his lot of his friends early on come along and started working for him in the garage. And we, at one stage, we got funny photos and stuff of us sitting around. A lot of those guys that still work for me were sitting in a garage in a dining table that hardly fit in the room. And literally, if there was a monitor here, there'd be a cup of coffee on the desk. You'd have to move your cup of coffee over here because he's got to use his keyboard. And we joke around about, saying their clients on Zoom, like, we'll just move in meeting room 2. And it's just this one space. Meeting room 2 is my deck on the back of the house. So yeah, it's pretty
Do
humble
you feel like
beginnings.
IBM? Because
But
IBM
yeah, to answer your
started in the
question,
garage.
I think there's a lot of good, like, Silicon Valley startup
Yep.
stories about in the garage. I think it's a rite of passage. The funny thing about, like, in the time I've had PayCat, like, it's all the work from home stuff's sort of become vogue now too. So, like, when I had it, like, in 2018, remember, we were still going to offices every day, and that was the norm, right? And COVID sort of forced everybody's hand to get equipped to work from home. So, yeah, so we're going through that evolution now.
So, what is the hardest part when you look back when you first started your business?
Well, when you first kick it off, you have all the time in the world and no money. So you've got to do stuff. You've got to do stuff that, you've got to use what you have an abundance of, right? So if you have an abundance of time, you could spend time sitting there doing business directory listings on Google, and you can set up your social media accounts. So a lot of apps have like a freemium level that you can jump on, and like HubSpot has a freemium level that you can go and settle that up and get an email marketing campaign and all this sort of stuff. And a lot of it's sort of, your ground game's got to be good when you set up. So cold outreach to LinkedIn and utilizing your networks and all that sort of stuff to get those early clients in. And then as time goes on, you end up with less time, more money if things go well. So it's at that point that you start saying, well, do I bring somebody in to perform this function for me so I can keep my time free? And that, like, the most recent incarnation for us is we very early on outsourced a lot of our marketing, and we brought that in-house in the past sort of 18 months. And that, accounting, bookkeeping is the same.
I definitely noticed. I said I noticed because it's really easy to
Yeah.
communicate with you guys.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. They're doing their job. But yeah, they do a great job, But one of going back to what really took PayCat off, I guess it was a bit of chance, actually. When I started PayCat, somebody got me on a HubSpot pretty early on. Do you use HubSpot at all or know of it?
Yes, I tried it, but I just felt overwhelmed by it because every time I wanted to do
Yeah.
something, I had to level up and I have to pay more. And I feel like
Yeah,
all I
exactly. Yeah.
do is pay more. Like I never get what I need, or I'm not quite sure if I've got the right automation in place, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. So it's very broken down in modules, but they had a nice free tier, and I sort of pretty well kicked off on day one with that. And I got very fascinated by their blogs are very informative, right? So now I'm still going to say to anybody that is starting a business out there that's watching your podcast, like, if you go on their blogs, they're extremely informative about their methodology they use to market to their audience, right? And I got quite fascinated by that. Don't have a background in marketing. But they use an approach called inbound marketing, and their methodology behind it is these days we don't wait for someone to knock on our door, or we don't drive past a billboard, or we don't look at the side of a bus and hear a radio jingle and make a buying decision. We go and do our own research. We have Google, and we have AI, and these are research tools, right? So, like, for example, if I'm looking to put in a new payroll system, I'm going to have questions about how much that's going to cost and what's going to be involved, and can I use my existing tools that I've got, and all these questions I've got to answer before I even decide what I'm going to use. And by the time that customer is talking to us, they've done 80% of that research already, and you're just bringing the last 20%. So what HubSpot's all about is they say, well, you've got to put the information out that answers that question or answers those questions. And so when COVID hit, like a lot of businesses, PayCat at the time were doing a lot of, like, construction, retail, hospitality, and a lot of that slowed right down. And so I decided to start putting out a whole bunch of blogs because, again, I had no money and a lot of time. So I put out a whole bunch of blogs, and with the marketing agency I was using at the time, we put out a whole bunch of content about a whole bunch of different awards. We wrote the jargon-free guide to the Shads Award was one of them, and construction and manufacturing, and just put it out there and watch what happened. And HubSpot's good at tracking all this stuff and telling you what resonates and what doesn't. And when we sat back and had a look at it, when we wrote the one about Shads, remember we wrote 17 or 18 of these things, the Shads one was the one that really took off. There was a huge appetite for people wanting to understand how the Shads Award worked, and I sat back and looked at this and went, oh, wow, this is like significantly outperforming blogs. Yeah. And at the time, yeah, it's not the same now. Like you and I could ask ChatGPT to write me a blog on the Shads Award to do it. But back then it was a labor of love, right? And so people would go on and do their own research. How does the Shads Award work? It's confusing me. And what we would do is we'd write the content and then we'd ask if they'd like to download a free ebook off the back of this blog. And they'd have to it's free. They'd have to put their email address in, and off the back of that email address, we send it a sequence of emails. Still the template we use to this day. The sequence of emails talk about how we've helped other customers and some of the things that we find that people are getting wrong out there in the Shads Award and all this stuff. Essentially what we're doing, we're not saying buy. Essentially what we're doing is say, here's some value. Here's maybe some answers to some questions you might have at the moment based on your buying journey when you're ready. And we'll get, that's where all our leads come from to this day. And we'll get people that have been on our site 2 years ago originally and downloaded that ebook, and they've just had that relationship with our brand for several years before they even sort of make their first phone call. And just something's gone wrong in payroll in their business, and they go, you know what?
It's time.
It's time to call that company I've been at, and I built that sort of trust. Yeah, exactly. So that's sort of how inbound marketing works, and it worked a treat for us. And of course, what we're seeing now is that we've got AI tools. People aren't using Google as much as they used to for research. They still are, but not as prevalent as it was during COVID. So we have to keep up with the times. We have to make sure that we're getting that link attribution in the AI tools now as well. So that's the new frontier. But yeah, it's a paint by numbers way to get business, but it worked.
What are you most proud of with your journey with PayCat?
Well, I think we probably opened a business and ran it in the most turbulent time in recent history, right? Like you have to go back to the Great Depression to have anything comparable. So the fact that we're here and we've become as prominent as we are, and particularly in our space, gives me a great sense of pride.
Who supported you the most when you first started PayCat?
Good. Well, I've got to attribute my business partner, Martin Frappel, and I worked for a long time without pulling away. I've got to say, Marty has been absolute rock. Probably, I remember we're pulling in like $1,000 a month for a good 18 months around COVID, which is he's a family man as well, not a livable wage.
Yeah.
So I've got to pay huge tribute to him. I've got to pay huge tribute to Chris Davies, I mentioned before, and his two brothers work for me as well. Foundation employees and have worked for me through periods where there's more work to do than days in the week. They've worked for me for periods where there's no work and they've had to cut back to like 3 days a week, and they've gone, that's cool. And they've just sort of stuck with me, and they're in key positions now. So I've got some really, really good people around me.
So if you could give your younger self a tip in business, what would it be?
Are we hypothetically, is it now or is it?
You do you, boo. You tell me which one.
So I'm giving a piece of business advice to me, and it's 2025 and I'm starting PayCat. So how are we going to do it? What do you think?
Go for it.
I would say stick to your niche. Don't try to be too much for too many people. Stick to your niche. Yeah.
Was that a lesson that you had to learn the hard way?
Same question. I've got the same question. Yeah, trial and error. Yeah, trial and error. Like you start, when you start business, you just try anything and see throw spaghetti to the wall and see what sticks.
Mm-hmm.
And then as time goes on, you just, somebody said to me once, in business, you can dig a wide hole very shallow or a narrow hole very deep. And I've found more success digging a narrow hole very deep. Yeah. So what about you, Sarah? What would you say?
My biggest tip for younger self, do it sooner. Don't wait. Do it. I wish 100% do it sooner. And that's probably the one regret that I had, because I really didn't know how much of an entrepreneur I was until I started and where I kind of fitted in, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Wish I'd done it earlier.
Yeah, for sure. And it probably resonates because I think a lot of us are perfectionists, right? And so perfectionism comes with procrastination sometimes, because you're like, I've got to wait till the moment's perfect or the opportunity's perfect or present, sometimes, like, even I told you the story about those blogs, right? The amount of spelling errors in version 1 of those blogs are incredible. And people would write in and say, no, that's wrong. And they'd challenge it. And having something out there that's imperfect better than not having anything out there at all.
100%.
And that's probably another little tip,
just to put it out.
Don't wait.
It's okay to be lean. If you had to go back.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, I love that.
If you had to go back in time, what was one of the biggest mistakes you made and what it taught you?
But go back Yeah, definitely during like prior to PayCat, I think career took priority over health, and that like I've flipped that a little bit in the past year, but I've focused more on health than career this year. But yeah, like I picked up some health issues earlier when I was younger, and didn't prioritize getting the basics right, and everything else suffers.
Is that
So
because your head was
yeah,
so in the
so
game?
if I was to go back, yeah, I get hyper fixated on whatever I'm doing. So I
Am I
just
talking to
I think
myself?
maturity just teaches you to strike.
I feel like I'm talking to the male version of
I'm
me.
sure it resonates with a lot of people. Yeah, it's true, isn't it? Yeah, and do you know, Sarah, I think you'd like it could be a great it could be
I
sorry, I
get
might have
it,
cut you
but
off.
if I no,
I'm
no,
just saying
all
like
good. If if I didn't hyperfixate on something, it would never have been built, or somebody else is gonna build it anyway in a couple of years. So I might as well hyperfixate on it now, knowing, because I don't know about you, but my hyperfixation kind of brings me a bit of pleasure because I get to, like, "Oh, look at this, look what I've created on the first. How cool is this?" Like, yeah, yeah, I understand that
yeah, and you
hyperfixation.
probably I think a lot of entrepreneurs are the same, and yet you we're not people like we're people that have to force ourselves to find balance in things. Like if you said like for example, health, money, business, family, relationships are the five key pillars of life. I have a lot of trouble not just going, I'm just going to do this one over here. I have to force spread it out, keep connected with my wife and kid, and keep connected with people in my life, and
Yep,
balance the books, and like do all this stuff that you need to do to be an entrepreneur. You're better having all these things working in sync than just having one thing work and everything else just burning to the ground.
yep. So with your hyperfixation and everything in between, what does success actually mean for you? And I'm guessing it's not just about money, but in life.
It was like I remember going right back. I grew up loving family, but we didn't have a real lot of money, and I remember sort of taking that on as a kid and going, I'm not going to have that same situation. I'm going to make a lot of money. And like, even I'm going back to like 14, going to school and career studies. They said, what do you want to be when you're older? And everybody'd say, I want to be a marine biologist or an engineer or whatever. And I'd say, I want to be rich. And they
Mm,
say, well, you better learn about money. So the following year I'm going, I'm going to do commerce, accounting at TAFE, legal studies, business studies. And on uni, I did a commerce degree and a finance degree and kept my options open. I went and applied at banks and big accounting firms, wherever, and like for a long time, it was just make money, make money, make money with good intentions. Like I'd seen the other side of that. But, I think it's part of maturing is that those five pillars that I mentioned, money's just one of them. And if the other stuff doesn't get prioritized, then you can have all the money in the world. And, you know, well, they say if you can either have 100 problems or one health problem. And it's the same thing, or family relationships and all that stuff. So I think for me, success is just keeping those five pillars in balance. It's not it's giving them equal priority. It's just something I've had to learn the hard way as I've gotten older.
You had to hustle to get to where you are now, because before you did say that you don't work in the business as much as you used to. So is that because
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
enjoyed your success because you've been able to boost it up?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And that's like, if we say to ourselves, what's the measure of success? And if you just said, oh, well, it's revenue, I might achieve that by doing 50 or 60 hours in the business a week. And when I started it, that's what I had to do. One of my measures of success is like by maybe only doing 25 hours a week in the business or something, it allows me to get those other five parts of my life, in equal stride, So I think, yeah, I would have given you a different answer 5 years ago, but I think success is just about working that balance, all those different elements of your life and making them all good and giving them all equal weight.
It's kind of
Yeah.
cool that you're at that point.
Yeah.
That must be
Yeah.
quite
It's different.
satisfying.
It's
Yeah.
different for sure.
Satisfying?
Yeah. It's satisfying, and it's definitely gives you a high sense of achievement that you can live this life, but it's also, I'm extremely grateful for it. It's not something I take for granted. PayCat's sort of been the enabler for that. I think I've had businesses in the past where you burn the candle at both ends, and it takes a toll on your health and the people around you and all that sort of thing. And this one's been a real enabler. It's just, yeah, it's tested us going through COVID, and
Mm.
has trials and tribulations like anything. I'll write a book, I'll read about it, but didn't know want to read it, but I'll write one.
You can do
But
that on
yeah, it's a great
Amazon.
business now. Yeah, I'll have to buy my own book. Yeah, but yeah, like it's I wouldn't change it for the world. It's been awesome.
So, anyone listening to this podcast, if you had to simplify the words, how would you describe PayCat to anybody new?
Well, to follow the cues of the podcast, originally when I opened, I would have said we specialize in complex payroll, and we help businesses set up systems that help them deal with it and automate it to make it not complex. And there's nothing more complex out there than the Shads Award. So we are Shads Award specialists. The one industry that everyone else runs away from, we do it. If you're an NDIS business, as you know, if you're an NDIS business or a you do aged care or disability care or home care or something like that, you fall under the Shads Award or one of those similar awards. You're up against one of the most difficult awards in Australia, and you have to pay compliant because margins are so lean. A lot of industries out there just pay, Sarah, I'm just going to give you an extra $5 and we won't worry about those penalties. It's too hard to work out. You can't do that in chats, right? Like we're talking about 2% margins in NDIS. You got to get it right. You got to do it quick, and you got to do it in a way that you can scale it. If your workforce grows from 6 people to 100, like a lot of them do overnight, all of a sudden you're back operating. You've got a huge workforce behind you, and you're dealing with one of the most complicated employment instruments in Australia. You call PayCat, we'll help it out. So that's sort of what I would say we're about. We're about helping businesses of any size deal with complex payroll.
So, when the Shads implement new things, do you guys have like a study group where you all hang out and you read all the new changes coming? How do you guys implement anything that's new? Are you in your
I'm going to
garage?
implement that. That sounds awesome.
Sorry?
We have a Slack channel.
Yep.
We have a Slack channel. There we go. You see it, boys? Yeah. But that's pretty much how it goes. So like everyone else, we get Fair Work updates. And they've got a subscription service where like if things change in the award, they let you know and you react to make that change yourself. And then we listen to industry leaders, on LinkedIn and sources like that. I give you like as an example, Fair Work in the course did a 180 on how you should deal with shift work either side of a sleepover. And it sort of
Mm.
changed the guidance overnight from what they've been saying to something new. For us, it's not in the award yet, so it's not really force of law, but we have to watch that really closely. Occasionally, there's cases like that where we just have to keep an eye on it in the media or direct through Fair Work or through, this is in the industry and stuff like that. So, and we communicate on Slack mostly. So we've got a dedicated channel to award changes that we get an RSS feed in and have chats on there and discuss it. And we've got a lot of clients also that get concerned when they hear things and they let us know. And, the good thing about having our template out there, our proprietary template out there is that like it gets crowd tested after a while as well. Like it's been independently verified, our award template, by our professionals, but it's also those really clever people that do payroll out there go, hey, we do it differently here, and this is why. And like, we get a new client, they challenge it. So over time, it gets more and more robust.
I'm a little bit disappointed that they're not in your garage and there's pizza. I thought that's where
There's
your
what?
study group would be.
Sorry, I missed the last bit.
I said, I'm a little bit
In the
disappointed
garage?
you're in your
The
garage,
garage is,
drinking beer, having a study group. I'm a bit disappointed now to hear that it's on a Slack group.
yeah, you'll be disappointed to see my garage. There's no dining table in there anymore. It's not Silicon Valley setup. It's now got a pool table with a whole bunch of junk on it that we're trying to sell on Gumtree. So yeah, no longer a rec hall like like it used to be. But yeah,
How does PayCat make life easier for small NDIS providers or a small support worker team?
what we would do if you're using a CRM or a rostering system or something like that, most do. For the purposes of billing and rostering and scheduling and appointments and notes and all that sort of stuff. We'll work with those systems and bring the timesheets in. And without you having to sort of work out in a spreadsheet what the SHADS calculation is meant to be, we'll put those timesheets into our system, produce a compliant payslip and send it out to your staff. So instead of, you hear horror stories of people spending a day, 3 days on payroll. Most small businesses get that done in under an hour, like 20 minutes a week. So yeah. So, often the stack they'll start with is they might use a Xero or an MYOB that's attached to their accounting products. And they're good. Like those payroll systems are fine. I'm not bagging them, but it does mean you have to open up Excel and work stuff out and then punch in the result. We take that process out of it. So, and plus, if it changes and when it changes, and it changes at least once a year, we update those changes and that propagates through to how you're going to pay as well. So it just takes a lot of that compliance risk away from the business.
Anyone starting out might be a bit nervous to approach PayCat to begin with because, when you're starting a new business, your overheads can be quite expensive. Is there ways for anybody that's watching the podcast or listening today that um, it defines like the different types of ways you could use PayCat for your business and the costings around it?
Yeah, it's interesting you say that. So, yeah, are right. Like, often it's the story that, you know what, let's go back to what we said before about I have all the no money and a lot of time.
Mm.
Well, if you only have 4-star, 5-star, maybe you can spend a bit of time in a spreadsheet and punch those calculations in and try to work out it's correct. And then go punch it in Xero or MYOB or whatever. Where PayCat comes in is you start getting a few more employees and all of a sudden your spreadsheet's not sort of keeping up with the complexity of the business anymore. And so it does sometimes suit, yeah, you start revising your systems and your business is a little bit bigger and you come to PayCat. However, a lot of people still come to us in startup phase and there's absolutely nothing wrong. Like we have like a $500 implementation fee for startups that allows them just to come in. We set up a file, we install the award, show them how a bit of training, show them how to put their first employee on, to Xero, get it registered with the ATO, do all that sort of stuff. So it's sort of a hand holding exercise. And then they're off and running, and it costs our fees $8 per employee per month. So you have your 1,000 employees at 6/8, $48.
The time you save. You think about it,
Yeah.
time is money. Like the time you would save only $8 a month.
Especially, Sarah, at that phase of the business, and you can probably reflect that, at that stage of the business, you're often still on the tools. Like you might still be out servicing clients. So if you're marking out 3 hours a week to go and run your Shad's payroll, you win that back. That's a charge out
So
rate, so yeah.
you guys you can integrate into multiple systems, multiple CRMs for anybody in the sector. Can you name a couple of CRMs on top of your head that you guys integrate to use for PayCat?
Yeah. Visual Care, Shift Care, Data Nova, FlowLogic is the name of their product. We've got, top of my head, there's some out there that are building an integration at the moment. There's a whole bunch of new CRMs that open up all the time. We get approached about building integrations. We've actually got something really exciting. I'm going to give you the exclusive. We
Yes.
actually work with Nightingale as a notable example. Yeah, Nightingale's great. So on the 1st of January or early January, we're actually launching a new service, which is going to sound boring at its core, but what it is, it's an API that allows all these CRMs to send their rosters and timesheets to us. We're going to cost it to send it back, and they'll be able to just place them straight to the CRM. So what that means is, as you're rostering, you get to see what your payroll result's going to be. And I mean compliant way. There's some out there that sort of, they had a crack at it to be nice about it, but they might only get 70% of it right. So this is going to be 100% right, 100% Shades compliant. You're going to send your rosters you won't have to leave the system, but you'll hit a button. It'll say, cost my roster for me. It's going to bring all these costs back in from us to that CRM, present them to you. And you can make decisions as you go and say, I'm going to give that shift to someone else to be a bit cheaper. Or I'm going to move that second shift off to somebody else so I don't get the broken shift allowance. Or I'm going to pull back and give this shift to someone else because it sent them in a fortnightly overtime. And just these little things that are going to actually save a lot of businesses a lot of money. And we're working with the leading CRMs as we speak behind the scenes to get that live Q1 next year. So
Wow.
there you go.
That
You heard it
actually would
first here.
save a lot of money.
Support workers.
When I think about it, how many times because you do the count, you're like, have I gone over? Have I gone under? Because sometimes in the CRMs, it doesn't always tell you that this
Right.
person's over their contract or the hours aren't matching
And
under their contract.
yeah, exactly. And that's how poor roster managers that have to work this out as they go. And, we're relying on them to get it right. And the thing with payroll is like PayCat's wonderful. Like, don't get me wrong. Like you can produce a great pay slip, but you can't really back and change timesheets because that's already happened. They've already, it's already been done. So the time to actually look at it and save money and analyze it and is when you're doing the roster, and that's when we want to put that quality information in front of the user and go, you know what, I'm going to move Sarah's shift over to here because that's going to lead me into overtime or a shift penalty or a top up hour or those subtle little things that cost money that you don't pass on sometimes in the NDIS billing. So we think it's going to be a game changer. I'm really
100%.
excited about it.
I'm feeling it because there's been times where like you're trying to do the maths in your head
Yeah.
going, all right, so public holiday, this person's a casual. If I move this person, can I move the part timer onto the public holiday? Is there too many days in a row? Are the hours? Yeah. Wow. Who thought of this idea? Whose grand idea was this, yours or some team members? It was
Uh,
yours.
it was mine.
All right. You must be getting a lot of beers at the pub because somebody would be really happy. That's going to save a lot of people money.
You know, I'm saying it's mine. It's You're saying it's mine. Like the idea of the solution is, but the problem has been raised to us so many times by our clients. It's been a consumer led thing that people really just need to know real time. Particularly we hit 1 July, the price book increases fell a little bit short of people's expectations, right? So that puts pressure on your back office functions a lot when, because the first thing to go when you lose your margins is you lose your money to run a good back office, right? Which includes payroll and includes rostering. And the chatter around this has always been there. It's been stronger and stronger since July, I think. So we really wanted to address that. And we're doing it in partnership with some of I can't announce who yet, but some of the leading CRMs in the market. We're doing this in partnership with. Yeah. So it's going to be awesome.
It's quite cool that you've taken the feedback from the community and you've been able to create and develop this. Is this something like, is it like feedback that is from a LinkedIn DM? Is it a message on Instagram? How do you get this feedback back from the people that we serve that, like our CRMs, our organizations and providers, that this was something that they were looking for?
Yeah, a lot of us one-on-one conversations we're having with clients, and we have interactions with our clients all the way through their life cycle stages with PayCats. Everywhere from in pre-sale, we're doing a demo and talking about what their pain points are and their requirements, and they'll bring it up there. And we go through the onboarding and training and dealing with our clients, and we do check-ins with our clients after they've gone live with our system. So there's always talking points we're having with all the way through, and of course, just being in good partnerships with our CRM providers out there and talk to them about the challenges they have about trying to be award compliant and building an award engine into their product. And, a lot of them openly admit they try, and it kind of like it's just I don't blame them. It's a bloody complicated award. So, they do it with the best intentions, but it's very hard to sort of get all those little nuance bits right. So yeah, watch this
So,
space.
I can't wait. Are you going to do like a big launch? Is everyone going to be in the garage? How does this work?
I think so. Yeah. No, I promise we have a nice little workspace now in Newcastle. We might have a little clink a few cocktails. Yeah, I think the garage is locked from as a workspace now.
So, what is one feature in PayCat that you find that everybody loves the most?
Award costing.
Yep. Is it in seconds?
Certainly. Yes. As soon as it is sub-seconds. Yeah. At the moment, we say you've done your timesheets in your CRM, like Nightingale, we'll import those timesheets in our system and start spitting out SHADS compliant pay slips. And you wouldn't be able to make a cup of coffee in the time it takes for hundreds of calculators. And my favorite part is when we do demos early on and you're showing somebody that, and it's that aha moment. So, we'll show them how to onboard an employee and how to log in and how intuitive it looks and all this sort of stuff. And as soon as you hit that, hey, look at all these costings, they go, oh my God, I spent hours doing that. You almost see the light bulb, the cartoon light bulb above so that's my favorite bit. So it's definitely the one that resonates the most is just, hey, this stuff calculates it straight away automatically with pretty easy inputs.
Does it make people nervous when they come to PayCat? Because the idea of like their jobs changing, because PayCat is so quick and fast, where beforehand a lot of people were doing it on the Excel spreadsheet.
Yeah, yes and no. Courses for courses. So sometimes for sure, I've definitely been the strangest case years ago. I was out at a client down in South Australia, and while I was there, they pulled the pin on the project. So I'd gone down there very early on, but mind you, I was very early on in the PayCat's career, and I was sort of down there. And I said, oh, "Look, guys, Garth, this is a little bit awkward, but the board of directors just said we're not going to go ahead by changing payroll systems." And sometimes there is a little bit of internal politics involved in people are a little bit, change management, the whole discipline unto itself. But sometimes people do get protective because they think they're worried about, I'm going to lose my job because it's not going to take 3 days a week anymore. It's going to take an hour. But the reality is you still need drivers of the system. And if it's me, I don't necessarily want to cut my payroll lady's hours back. I want to get her analyzing roster patterns and, you know, looking at ways I can make it a little bit cheaper or streamlined, or, a lot of those value add things that they can use their time on better than just sitting there in a spreadsheet calculating shad. So it's not always about just trying to get people out of a job.
Mm.
It's just bringing them in all parts of the business that you're not doing because you're sitting there punching out a spreadsheet that doesn't benefit anybody.
Now, float my boat for a moment. What is with all the providers that you provide PayCat to, can you what is the most staff members one provider has that you guys are able to, with nanoseconds, as you said, an instant, be able to determine pay slips and pump them all out?
4,000.
And how quick do they do it?
They divide it up into 3 pay runs, and it would process up 5 minutes per pay run.
There are people listening to this right now going, why am I spending so long doing it on an Excel spreadsheet?
Yeah, I mean, it's been that song for 8 years. We live in the journey, as I said, the journey is, I'm about to open up. I've got my NDIS registration behind me, about to open up a business. I need an accounting system. One of the best accounting systems in Australia. Well, we've got Xero, we've got MIB. Oh, look, they've got payroll. That'll do for now. That's where people start, right? And I'm not going to change that. There's a big, powerful marketing machine behind that. And that's great. If you and I open a business and we had a couple of staff on a salary or a couple, a flat hourly rate, it's fine, good system. But the second you introduce shads compliance to those systems, you got to do it somewhere else. And it's just, people sort of don't get that straight away. They've got to go through that pain before they realize. So, as I said, there are some CRMs that make a okay effort to try to get that calculation in there. But at the end of the day, if you want something reliable, you've got to have something really robust behind you. It's not about the size of your workforce. It's about the complexity of the industry.
Without ruining anyone's confidentiality, once you've had people come into PayCat, has they seen providers seen a significant change and difference in payments that they're no longer losing, or they are seeing where the holes are? Because money can be lost on payroll
Sometimes,
quite easily.
yeah. So there's two aspects to it. One is that they might have realised they've been underpaying.
Yep.
And on the dollars and cents version, underpaying your staff intentionally or unintentionally brings penalties for unfair work. It brings reputational risk to your workforce. Like, there's a study done that said if you pay your staff wrong twice, they start looking for another job. So if you like the price of ads on Seek, that's a good way of ramping that cost up and the recruitment cost. And it's hard to get staff in this industry, so you want to keep the good ones. You don't want to pay them wrong. That said, in most cases that I find, more than most, people genuinely want to pay their staff right.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think I've come across businesses that go, I'm intentionally trying to underpay my staff. What they're doing is they're getting the policies wrong, they're getting the interpretation of the award wrong, and potentially underpaying their staff. Then there's another version of it where they're overpaying their staff. 2 reasons why they might be doing that. Again, they might be interpreting something wrong and paying too much, and they're going to save money by introducing PayCat. The second version of it is that this is too damn complicated, so I'm just going to pay overs. And we have a habit of doing that in Australia. We have the construction industry's killer for it. Construction industry, you hop on one leg and turn around 3 times, you get an allowance, right? The people in the construction industry say, don't worry about that. I'm just going to pay you $50 an hour. Don't worry about all this other stuff. We're just $50 an hour. I'll give you a bit of overtime for a week. That's it, right? You work a public holiday, you work over Easter, and all of a sudden you're underpaying your staff because even though you're overpaying them, you don't actually realize that the amount they're meant to get under the award's higher. So you run that risk with overpayment. And also, you are still required once a year to check it and go, well, what should have this person got if they're being paid under the award, and have they been paid enough, and reconcile that. So you're not really, the award actually says this is the minimum amount you're meant to pay your employee. I hate to say it, you've got to stick to your minimums in this industry. Yep. Now more than ever, you have to pay minimum rate. Like, if you try to pay overs, you're eating into your margin, and there's not much margin. So, if you want to run a lean ship, you've got to pay your staff right.
If anyone's looking to use PayCat as a service after listening to this podcast, what is the best way for them to contact you guys? Is it your website, email, phone call?
Yeah, website's great. You can jump on our website and book a demo. It's probably the best way to do it. There's on the homepage, go book a demo. Also have a look at some of we've got, even, I'll send you a link if you like. We've got some really good, like I mentioned, blogs and resources and stuff like that, just that you can get for free. You can download and read through and just cross-check against what you're doing at the moment. It's a good place to start, even before you call us. and there's payday checklists and stuff like that in there that you can use. So I'll send that through to you if you're listening.
100%.
And by all means, call. We're old school. We actually answer the phone still. Give us a call. Even we actually have phone support. You don't hear about that much anymore, do you? Phone support, the software.
Never like the phone
But
call.
we do.
I'm a caller. I'll admit that. I love calling people over an email any day
A
of
lot
the
of
week.
people do it. It's first name basis stuff. Hey, how's your weekend? And it's like you get to know your
Me
clients. It's actually
again.
pretty good. Yeah.
So to bring this home, where do you see oh, there's a big one, you ready for it? Where do you see PayCat in 10 years' time?
I'd like to think that we have the majority market share in the industry for shads, the NDIS care space. Yeah. I don't think it'll take 10 years. I'd like to see it. The costing's being used in every major CRM in the market. And the other thing I'd really like to do is just as we get bigger and we get our technicals out more and more, I sort of want to build a community. And this is part of why going on the podcast is really important. Like build a community for people in our industry that do payroll, that deal with these challenges every day.
Yeah.
They can talk to each other, not just to us, but talk to each other. Yeah, there's some of the things places I'd really love to see PayCat go in the next period of time. But look, who knows? We always have to stay agile, and NDIS businesses have to stay agile as well because there's never changing landscape, and you just have to move with time. So we need to see what impact AI is going to have on the apparel industry as a whole, and what Fair Work are going to do with making it more complicated or more simple in the future, and all those sorts of things as well. But yeah, continue to be adaptable.
You mentioned community, so you've got me thinking. You've got to wear your bag of fruits soon because you're going to an award ceremony and you guys are the sponsor.
Yeah,
Yeah, we'll chat after
we
this.
are. You got to be down there as well.
Tell me more. You guys are sponsoring. What part are you sponsoring?
The Changemaker Award, I think, is that category, which I
Yeah.
thought was sort of most fitting for business transformational change as people go through it. Yeah, looking forward to it.
Is that
The one night a year I wear a suit.
is this the first time you have been a sponsor for an event? Yeah.
First
Congratulations.
time.
Do you see you guys
First
doing
time.
more of
Thank
that in the
you.
future?
First time being down there. I'd love to. Those nights are just like a fun, let your hair down way of getting to know the industry a bit better too. So,
Yeah.
if you're listening to this and you see me do awards night, come introduce yourself and say hello. But yeah, we've been to a few conferences and they always put on the evening soirees and all that sort of stuff. And people just get relaxed to those things. And you ask them before where you hear about the challenges people have. And often it comes from just one-on-one chats. So really looking forward to it.
Right. Well, that's anything else that I've missed or we need to talk about PayCat?
Now you've come up with really great questions for me. You stumped me on a few, which is good. Not hard to do, but good. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. So I'm glad we could
easy.
line it up.
All right. Thank you so much for joining the podcast. I will put the links down below for anybody
Pleasure.
wanting to click in, read some of your blogs and where you're at. And if not, say hello to you at the award ceremony. Thank you so much.